Hey guys, Jeff, and welcome to today's video. So today we're going to try something a little different. We are going to play Fantasy Band. So Fantasy Band is kind of like fantasy football, where you pick individual players, in this case individual musicians from various bands, and try to create like your super group. And it's very business-like of me. I'm using Microsoft Excel. It is a non-pirated version. It is absolutely legal. So today you can understand that we're going to be making some real big business moves. So I've spread out this Excel spreadsheet where we have drums, bass, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, and vocals. I'm going to choose 3 musicians per category. Another rule I'm going to give myself is that I don't want to have more than one representative from any band. So we're going to start with the drums. First contender, I think, is no surprise to anyone. It's Travis Barker. My second favorite drummer in the world is, of course, Dave Grohl from Nirvana. So Dave is definitely going to have to be candidate B. And C is going to be Joey Jordison, because I've always loved Slipknot and Joey Jordison. If we go in a more metal direction, I think Joey is going to be a really good asset. If we're going a more dad rock kind of vibe, I think Dave is going to be pretty cool. And for pretty much anything else, I think Travis got everything perfectly nailed down. All right, now let's talk about bass. Candidate A for bass is going to be Geddy Lee. Probably don't expect me to go with Geddy Lee, but I really love Geddy's work. He's a very original bassist. Of course, he's very technically talented. Not necessarily the reason why I would go with Geddy. It's more the vibe that he has. Again, with a dad rock thing, I think Dave and Geddy would make like a really kick-ass band. My second candidate is going to be Ryan Martini. Ryan is the bass player for Mudvayne, or at least used to be before the band disbanded. Ryan's technique is just unlike anything I've ever heard in anything else. This guy has some really sick chop. Ryan might be a bit loud. I wouldn't trust Ryan to be able to tone it down. We'll have to see, but Ryan is definitely one, if not my favorite bassist in the world. Candidate C was going to have to be Shavo Adagian from System of a Down. So when I was talking about scaling it back a little, I think Shavo embodies this perfectly. Shavo knows when it's time to lay down into it or when it's time to go back and leave the room for somebody else. And he has this insane, awfully cool beard. So I think Shavo shirtless with a beard out in just about any situation will be about to kill it. Now, lead guitars, my first contender is John 5, because I think he would be the kind of player that would be able to scale back. In fact, he's a very talented rhythm guitar player as well. When he was in Marilyn Manson and now in Rob Zombie, he's done some pretty sick licks, but he's able to really put the hammer down when it comes to lead playing as well. So maybe not the most technically gifted player in that list, but definitely a great contender. As opposed to my second contender, which is John Petrucci. I love John Petrucci's lead playing, but I feel like he would be that kind of guy that would just step in front of the stage. He's got this huge personality, and he's got these huge and long solos and Dream Theater and all that other stuff, Liquid Tension Experiment. So definitely a contender, but I have my reservations with having John in the band. And my third contender is going to have to be Tosin Abasi. Tosin is a really talented and gifted player. He has some really great rhythm playing. He does some amazing solos with all the tapping and everything. The only concern I would have with Tosin is that sometimes I think, much like Petrucci, he might take the center stage a little too much. But if we're going with the more metal stuff and really complex melodies, I think Tosin and Ryan would really mesh well together. So we'll have to see the candidates that we have at the end, and maybe that will be a match made in heaven. Rhythm guitar, very important to me. I think we need someone who has really great riffs and not necessarily that much technical prowess. First candidate for that would be Monkey from Korn. Of course, Monkey plays very heavy stuff, and he tends to be not that melodic a lot of the time. So I might have some concerns that Monkey might not be able to pull out the rhythm guitars that we want, but he's definitely a contender. My second contender, of course, is going to have to be Tom DeLonge. Tom has had some very creative rhythm playing throughout his career, and he's pioneered a lot of things. I would be concerned with Tom, however, that he would go chasing aliens before we actually release an album with that band. Also, his ego can be pretty large, so if we have a very big ego kind of band, I feel like Tom might not mesh well with some of the other guys in there. So we'll have to see, but he's definitely a contender for sure. Now, my third contender for rhythm guitar might be kind of weird because he's not typically known for being a guitar player, but I think it's the kind of guy that would bring a very different perspective to the role, and that would have to be Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park, of course. Mike plays rhythm guitar in Linkin Park, and I think Mike's overall creative input would be invaluable to the band. So while his technical guitar playing might not be what Tom's or Monkey's might be, I think he makes some really melodic stuff, and on top of it, I think Mike is a really cool and laid back guy. And finally, for our vocalist, first candidate is going to be Howard Jones, formerly of Killswitch Engage. Howard is a great singer. He's got some really nice and powerful, melodic, clean vocals, and he can scream as well, which is very nice. It gives him a lot of range and a lot of possibilities in a band like this. So I think having Howard Howard in there would be very cool. My second contender for vocalist is Jonathan Davis. Much like Howard, I think Jonathan has a really wide range. However, I think he has that star power that Howard lacks. However, I wanted to make sure that I had two guys with sort of the same skill set in my band, because if I ever end up going with Monkey, for example, then I would have to let Jonathan go because I can't have two members of Korn. Already, we have to play strategies with ourselves in order to get the star band that we want. And then third contender for vocal and final musician in this list is going to be Amy Lee. Amy is just such a talented singer. She's got like this almost opera kind of vocals that she can do, but she can also tone it back quite a bit. I think she has a star power. I think also having a female singer in the band might give us some credibility. All right, so now we have these 15 incredibly talented musicians, and now we're going to have to narrow that down to just 5, so one in every category. And we're going to have to be mindful because in a lot of cases, these guys play in the same bands, and if I choose one, I automatically disqualify another. For that very reason, I think I'm going to start with the bass first, because I feel like I have that the most figured out in my head right now. It closes the least amount of doors. None of these guys have bandmates in the list. You might not be surprised, or you might be, but I'm going to have to go with Ryan for this. As I mentioned earlier, Ryan is really my favorite bassist, I would say, and I think he would bring a lot of flavor to a band. He can go really melodic, really aggressive, really simple. So I think Ryan is really our man for this band. Now, the second position that we're going to fill is lead guitar. Again, that's a category where I'm more certain. For this category, it's going to have to be John 5. I sort of already explained why, but I think John is very capable on the rhythm side, and he's of course very technically gifted in the lead side as well. Maybe not as much as Petrucci or Tosin Abasi, but I don't feel like the kind of band I want to create would require that kind of technical proficiency, and he's very versatile. He's played in all sorts of bands in country with Katie Lang, Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, and his solo stuff. I think John is just the overall perfect lead guitarist for our fantasy band. So now we got two metal players that are also very versatile. So I feel like we are ready to choose a drummer. As much as I would like to have Joey Jordison or Dave Grohl in there because they are just iconic guys, I feel like the kind of band we're going towards with these two would be very diverse, and I think for that reason, Travis Barker would really need to be our guy. I think Travis would be the most likely to adapt to anything that these two would put out, and I don't think we're going very much in the direction of dad rock, so sorry Dave, sorry Getty, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Travis on this one. Now we got our core, so I think it's time to choose our rhythm guitarist. Of course, Tom is now officially ruled out of the running because we've already selected Travis and we can't have Tom. It has to be between Monkey and Mike Shinoda. I feel like Monkey might be at a disadvantage here because I've never seen a side of Monkey where I think he would mesh very well with John 5, Ryan, and Travis. So for that reason, I think that I will select Mike Shinoda as my rhythm player. I think he would bring better backing vocals and maybe some rapping in there as well for certain experimental tracks. So I'm sorry, Monkey, while you are one of my most influential guitar players ever, I would have to go with Mike. And we're now down to the vocals, and this is a really, really tough sell. I really like Howard Jones, and I think in this list of singers, he's more of the underdog. Like Jonathan and Amy are both in huge bands, and I like to have the underdog in there win sometimes. However, this is business, and I feel like Howard Jones might not have the star power to be our front man, so I'm unfortunately going to have to rule out Howard. And it's down between Jonathan and Amy, and this is a really, really tough. Ideally, I would like to have them both. If you've seen the Korn Unplugged videos, they actually did a song together, and they meshed really, really well. I think having both Jonathan and Amy would be amazing. However, I'm going to have to go with Jonathan Davis on this. It might work better to have a Jonathan Davis in there rather than Amy Lee. I think Amy Lee has this incredibly attractive personality. Like, if you think of Evanescence, I would say that most people, myself included, would be hard pressed to be able to name anyone else in that band. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Amy is really the center point of the band, and she has such star power that she pulls all the attention towards herself. For that reason, I think Jonathan is going to be our guy. So there we go. We have a band with Travis Barker on drums, Ryan Martini on bass, John 5 on lead guitar, Mike Shinoda on rhythm guitar, and Jonathan Davis on vocals. So what do you think of my fantasy bands, guys? Would you like to hear a song produced by these guys? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Let me know in the comments below, of course, what your fantasy band would be like, and I will see you Sunday for my next music video. Peace, guys.